Welcome to In the Back Pocket, the review show, a massive round 16. Carlton, well, they let us know who they really were, and another false dawn for North Melbourne. You've come here representing the North Melbourne colours as well.
Just wanted to bring it up again because we all know my view on it. So.
Well, what we do every Monday and every Thursday, we give our best bets for the round, and that's what we're doing. We're doing accountability this season.
One bet
on In the Back Pocket. One bet that you said was the best of the year, which you got up. Let's have a look at the profit and loss and see where we're sitting right now. This was this round. Darcy Cameron, the only one that let us down here in very, very unfortunate circumstances.
Darcy didn't let us down. I let us down.
Yeah, well,
I'll take the heat for Darcy.
That's taking ownership.
You let yourself down. You let us. We're in profit.
Yes.
And are you just going to back Sam Darcy every week now?
I'm going to back Sam Darcy
every
single week because you know what Daniel
history.
Hoyne says? I will back history until history changes. But let's have a look at the leaderboard on this one as well. We bet $10 every week. I'm the fat little piggy at the bottom there. Pull my tail, $118. Brownie, second elect. And right now, Kate, sitting at $90.
Darcy Cameron, eh?
Yeah.
Tough. Well, let's go through our bets in this one because we're all very confident heading into the round. Zach Dawson was where you went.
I didn't go with Zach Dawson. He had a wonderful career. I went with Jordan
Great
Dawson.
player, especially full back. Ross Lyon always backed him in.
3 grannies, I think he played
I don't
in.
think there's a single player in the AFL that I've accidentally said their name when I'm not meant to, more so than Zach Dawson, someone who I never said their name when they're playing.
A certain someone had trouble with McCartan a few weeks ago.
Remember that?
We've both done that as well. But Jordan Dawson for you.
Jordan Dawson, I went, well, I'm not sure how he's not featuring higher on your Brownlow Tracker because he has been sensational this year. Him, along with Matt Kennedy. Well, he wasn't when we looked at it last year. Him, along with Matt Kennedy, they're going to be my 2 absolute regulars, I think, my go-to stack getters every week they do it.
You mentioned regulars. I am never going to move away from Sam Darcy right now.
$3.
As long as they continue to keep offering this. Now, he only kicked the 3 in this one, so I can't get too confident on it. But he had another couple of chances as well.
You know what should fill you with a lot of confidence, though? The way in which he did kick these goals. There were 3 different ways. He didn't actually even rely on his contested marking. The first one was a mark with a set shot, but the fact that he can do things like that at his size, he's just phenomenal.
Ironically, just after I said that Sam Darcy wasn't going to be able to kick 10 goals in a game because he doesn't do exactly what he did there to win my bet on that. But
Kangaroos, you may as well go back to the well this week playing the Kangaroos. Charlie Combin out as well. My bet, and I said it was the bet of the year because it all lined up for John Newcombe. Loves playing in Tassie, loves playing against North Melbourne. Best record against the Kangaroos, 23.5. I thought it was a low line. And he'd had 18 at half time, so you're home and hose. He really slowed down after that and took a long time to get there. Ended up with 27, but I was very, very confident. I didn't even look or refresh my phone once for this one. It's well done, Jai.
Oh, on the topic of refreshing your phone, that's a dangerous one for one of our panel members.
Yes, so we all know it's been quite widely publicised now to start the show. I took Darcy Cameron at 20 plus, and I was watching this game intently in the last few minutes, and I thought, okay, he's sitting on 19, he needs one more, and then this happens. And so he's in the contest here, and I think,
that's a handball.
No, look, watching it, I was like, that does not look like a handball. They won't give him that. He'll need to find another one somewhere here on the field. Then I quickly refreshed my app.
They've
given it to him, 20 plus, and I thought, well, there we go. Tick, tick, tick. I wake up the next morning and I look back on the app. They've taken it off him. So he had 19.
Champion data.
Took it off him.
Hoyney.
So, yep, that was
call.
the difference between me being at 90 with my little pig there and up above all of you because he was $2.10 for 20 plus.
He's stiff.
Yeah,
What the champion data people can give.
Oh, what did BT
away?
Give it, then take it away.
What did BT call these gadget-type operators? Boffins or something at some point? Yeah, I think he called it. That's what it was. You don't want to be losing your bet for that, but it wasn't all else for you this week.
No, it wasn't. I did enjoy, my takeaway for the round actually is the resurgence of the key forwards and their ability to hit the scoreboard. So I took Riley Thilthorpe, 4 plus, could have had him for 5 plus in the end. And then I also had a nice win on Mitch Georgiades for 5 plus. He was paying $10.50 for that one. So that's my takeaway from this round. And looking ahead, there are some big lopsided matchups for some of the big guys this weekend. So you got Sam Darcy against North, as we touched on, which I'm sure you'll be all over.
Oh, yeah.
Then we've also got Jesse Hogan and Cadman. They play the West Coast Eagles. Ben King takes on Essendon. Jeremy and Shannon Neal take on Richmond. So the big Jez, he could hit a few against Richmond. So I'd be looking...
Neil.
Jeremy and Shannon Neal. I would be looking at both of those, I think, in that game against Richmond because they were poor on the weekend.
It's a lopsided round in general as well, isn't it?
It is.
So hopefully I'm not going to be watching them head-to-head matchups too much. That could be where we're looking for a bit of entertainment. But who's hot And who's not, Nathan?
Yeah, let's get it up. Let's have a look at the best graphics in the business, because who is hot? It is Patrick Lipinski. 3 of his last 3, 2+, good price too. Josh Dacos, 4 of his last 5 games, 30+, takes the kick-outs. Guinea, playing nice footy at the moment, getting a fair bit of the ball, but 3 of his last 4 games, 2+. And Luke Davies-Uniacke, his price has almost gone from 25+, but he is super consistent. 11 of his last 12, so when there's hot, there is not. And Tim Taranto, 2 of his last 5, he's missed out. Clayton Oliver, he used to be like $1.05 for 25+. He used to have to go to 30, 35+. He's well off. Patrick Cripps, 0 of 4 at 25. And Riley West, who's been good all year, has only kicked 2+, 1 of his last 5.
Oh, very, very good. But it's time to get to Magnet Movers.
Yes, the first magnet mover that we have here is we're looking at the Adelaide Crows. So Max Michelani, he went forward, surprisingly. He's not done a whole lot of this in his AFL career. He's usually played 100% in defence. He played as a defensive forward, so 92% of the game he played in the forward line. He ended up kicking 3 goals. And if the question is around whether he does this again, I think there's been a lot of questions about their forward line and with 3 talls, can they defend? I think he could be the one that is that pressure forward that does a job on the opposition's best defender, which was Nick Vlaston on the weekend, kept him very quiet, hit the scoreboard himself. So I think this would definitely be one to continue. So I will keep a watch on Max Michelani.
So you're looking at the opposition for Adelaide to dictate whether or not you think he might play a defensive role in the front half?
I think they might persist with it no matter what, because they want to use it come finals. Because if you think, if they're playing against a team like Geelong, he'll go to Tom Stewart. If they're playing a team like Brisbane, he'll go to Dane Zorko. So I think it's one of those things that you give him a nice run and lead into it to do a really important job come finals.
Joel Fraser, very, very dangerous up forward for the Bulldogs. Who was it that was taking him in the past? Because there's been some conjecture to this one.
We both, I copied Kate, but I took Joel. They're calling him Little Bont, and why not? But his magnets moved on the back of Adam Treloar going out. And I think if Adam Treloar wants to play in a premiership, he has to maybe change his role now or if he comes back, because this man should be playing more forward. 70% forward, but I like him in the midfield. So I want him to play midfield. He lost that role when Treloar came back, but midfield forward, he is a beast. He's very good at the stoppage. He's very hard to tackle, getting a lot of the football, and he's a good finisher as well.
Sounds very similar to something that I said on a program on Saturday night, that just then.
With
Treloar going out and him coming in. And
well,
You up to your old tricks again?
Sometimes I like to get the earliest crow, which you do on a Saturday night, and then I might have rolled that into Sunday Footy Show as well.
It's dangerous stuff. Let's get away from that, because we know Browny doesn't like those sort of accusations. Who are the market movers? Now, I'm angry now, because this is dirty work. Wait till this graphic comes up right now. There is an addition towards the bottom of this that did not need to be put in here. The Sydney Swans, $81 out to 251. They were 251
That's a big drop, isn't it?
That's a big, big drop. I almost don't believe it. But Collingwood up the top, surprisingly, out to $4 right now. We've been told all year that they're too old and they're going to falter towards the back end of the season. Does anyone at this point think that's going to happen, or are we still very, very confident in the Pies?
Oh, I'm not sure anything will change between now and the end of the season to not make Collingwood favourites going in. I think their body of work to this point has been clearly the best and most consistent. It's going to be a question of which of those top sort of 4 teams can get to finals healthiest and not lose any key operators, maybe even rest some between now and then. So I think you're looking at those top 3, I reckon.
We're not talking about older players that are over the hill and they're on the wane. They're actually playing. Scott Pendlebury was the 3 vote getter on the weekend. He was outstanding. His timing he is an unbelievable player. Like, I think he'll play at least 2 more seasons. He's going that well. So I don't see why Scott Pendlebury at the moment would even bother thinking that maybe I'll finish up.
And they were at slight risk of losing that game on Saturday night. West Coast played a very good game of football. They did what they needed to do to get the win, and that's what we've said all year. The best teams will find a way to win. They did. There's no concerns for me for Collingwood.
You mentioned earlier, Kate, that there could be some bags kicked this weekend. Let's have a look at the Coleman Medal market as well to see where everyone's sitting right now. Jeremy Cameron, of course, up the top. $1.67 or
Jeremy Neal
into $1.62. Jeremy Neal, even if you want to call him Browny. Anything sticking out to you?
It's going to be hard for Jeremy Cameron to lose this one. Jesse Hogan, at some point, he's got the ability to kick the 7s, the 8s, the 9s. So it's a race in 2, but I couldn't back $1.62. It's too short for me.
Can you imagine a King maybe using that game in hand and having a bag of 6 or 7 and catching him, or is that just gone for you?
I think he's a 3 or a 4 or a 5. I don't think he's... Not that he's not good enough. I think he's talented enough. I just don't think he will kick the 7 and 8s or 9s at the moment, so I don't see it in him.
Yeah, I don't rely on him as much as I feel like you can rely on players at the top of that list.
Yeah, every key forward their game is dictated slightly by the midfield and how it's sent in. Somebody like a Jez, you feel like can kind of create his own goals, but I'm with you. I think he's too heavily reliant on what happens up the field.
And I reckon they got that killer instinct of it's a big day, it's a fill your boot day, and I think Jeremy's got that. I'm not sure King has that at the moment.
What about the rising star market right now? Because Dan Curtin was the big mover in this one over the weekend. Now, is this a bit of knee-jerk reaction? Is it too little too late? Late in the year, he's had a good season, but again, I probably think it's very tough to take over Levi Ashcroft at this point.
I don't know what you had in your Brownlow tracker, but I would have given him the 3 votes if I was doing that game.
Gave him 3 votes.
He was absolutely dynamic through the midfield. He showed that should be a position that he plays for a long period of time. I think he had 26 disposals, 11 score involvements as well. So he was someone that really impressed me, but I still think Levi Ashcroft is going to take some chasing down.
You almost segued that one yourself right there. If there's anyone else who's going to host this show, Kate, it's going to be you, because Brownlow Tracker. Hit us with it.
Have a look at it. So, Nick Dacos is still up the top end of it, and so too is Jordan Dawson. But I didn't give Nick Dacos the 3 votes. I gave him 2. I gave Jordan Dawson 2. I thought that Daniel Curtin would have got the 3 yesterday. Caleb Sarong, big opportunity missed. He didn't even get tagged, but he didn't touch the footy. Obviously, Bailey Smith didn't play. I didn't give Anderson any votes at all. He had 27. Maybe the umpires look at that and go, that's worth a vote. But I just didn't think he got a lot of them late, and I just didn't think he had the impact that he normally has, Noah Anderson. So I left him out. It's tight at the top. Dawson and Dacos at the moment. I thought Sarong missed out big. Connor Rosee's the one though. If he's getting 3s when I'm giving him 1s and 2s here, obviously I think Mitch Georgiades probably gets the 3 in this game. But 17, $51, I'd be watching Connor Rosee top 5 markets. If he's $51, I think you're going to get a good price at top 5 for Connor Rosee.
Certainly hope so. Plenty of value to be found there. Isaac Heane this week was the most punted on player for Sportsbet. 65% of bets placed on 20 plus, 24% on anytime goal scorer. They're coming up against Fremantle here, which the head-to-head in this one is surprising to have Fremantle as such outsiders. Is Isaac Heane expected to have a day out in this one?
He is the ultimate impact player. So he was the last player on the field on Friday night to actually register a disposal. Then he went on and kicked 4 in a quarter. He is someone that doesn't need a whole lot of the footy. He can find a whole lot of the footy, though, to have an impact. And I think if you're looking at players that will be relied upon, and you feel like he's going to spend a bit more time closer to goal now that they've got the likes of Goulden back, so he can rotate through that midfield and hit the scoreboard, he'd be someone that I would definitely be keeping an eye on.
He's a tough one to punt on though, isn't he? Because you don't know whether he's going to play full midfield, and you'll get a good price for 25 plus this week because he spent a lot of time forward, and then you can't back him for goals either because you don't know if he's going to play more midfield time. So it's almost like a buyer beware. Yes, you'd love to back him, but I'd be holding fire this week on Isaac Heane.
Well, the Swans are tough with their goal-kicking markets in general with that because you've got Goulden, Warner and Heane who can all kick 2 or 3. Hayward, you throw him in there as well, so they're a tough one to follow. Fremantle right now.
Just on Will Hayward, every time I back him, he doesn't touch it. Just doesn't touch it. Like he might have a Tom Lynch day on the weekend, 0. And then I don't back him, and he looks like Wayne Carey, like foot reincarnated, 4, 5, 6. He's an unbelievable player when I don't back him. So just let me know if you want to back Isaac Heane. You ask me if I'm getting on.
From one Swans fan to another gentleman, please don't back Hayward again. Just let him absolutely roll in this one. But it's time to bring in one of the best men in the game, Daniel Hoyne. 40. Champion Data's Daniel Hoyne. Time to welcome him in. Now, I've seen throughout the media, we've called you the Puppet Master before, but there appears to be more people talking about these Champion Data rankings. It's become the sort of, it's in the vernacular now.
Yeah, well, that's the power of Champion Data and the role that we play in the AFL industry, I suppose. But I don't know, hopefully that's a good thing.
I think it is. I definitely think it's a good thing. Now, last week we heard from you talking about the Bulldogs. Can we trust someone? Can we not? Give them a bit of a profile. Where, from a Champion Data perspective, do you sit with the Bulldogs?
Yeah, so the reality is now we're only 8 games away from final series kicking off. So we're getting to the stage of the season where you are what you are. And, probably 3 or 4 games away, and by then, you are who you are. So, things aren't just magically just going to change. So with the Dogs at the moment and where they sit after round 16, the reality is they are the best offensive team we have seen for 10 years, going back to Hawthorn in 13 and 14 over that period. They are number 1 in all 4 areas with the footy. A team has never done that before in the 10 years of having a look at this type of profile. So that's a huge tick. Their clearance work, that is a huge tick. That is their point of difference. However, the reality is that defensive profile there without the footy 10th is rarely, if ever, going to get it done. And one particular area, we talked about it and put it on the agenda 2 months ago on this show. Their defensive 50 is the 7th worst defensive 50 in the competition. And against the best teams in the competition, it's the 4th worst defensive 50. So that's how often you concede a score when the opposition go inside 50. And people will ask, yeah, but why is that so important? Why is that so important? Well, for the last 15 years, every single premier has ranked inside the top 8, and 14 of the 15 premiers have ranked inside the top 6. So you think about a final series, and you think about, over the course of 3 finals, 360 minutes, whatever it might be, at some stage the game is going to be against you. There has not been a premier that has dominated territory from start to finish throughout a whole finals campaign.
So you don't think history can change for that $8 there for the Western Bulldogs at the moment?
My favourite line, I'll back history until history changes.
So you're against the Dogs in this history?
I'm against the Dogs. And like we were 2 months ago, we put it on the agenda. Let's see if it's changed. 2 months later, it hasn't changed. As I said, we're getting to that stage where you are what you are, and if this doesn't change, I'll back history until history changes.
I think there's one player that can change this, and I think it's Liam Jones. He's been out with injury. He's been out of favour. If he can get back to some form through the VFL, obviously, and impress, he is genuinely someone that could come in and shore up this defence. We saw last year when they moved Lobb back there, the two of them were playing very good defensive footy. He hasn't been able to play much football, if any, this year.
Are they going to play him, though?
I think
they played Ryan Gardner ahead of him against Hawthorn.
Yeah,
that was a big mistake.
He's been out for a number of weeks with the soft tissue. So I think if he's available and gets back, they need him back playing his best footy for them to change that. And I think there is a chance, but without him, I don't think they have the cavalry down back to be able to do it.
Yeah, and it's been shown throughout the whole season so far. That's why they are 1-6 against the best teams, despite offensively being brilliant against the best teams in the competition. But that there, suggests that they are going to have to buck history.
What about you? Accuse the Crows, with data to back you up, of being downhill skiers. Are you going to do the same thing right now to the Hawks?
Yeah, so I want to put Hawthorn on the radar. So their draw coming home is the second hardest of any top 9 team behind Brisbane. So they take on 3 top 4 teams on the way home. Things are going to have to start to get moving. And when you actually have a look at what they've done against the best, it is very similar to what Adelaide have done against the best. And we've talked about them over the last couple of weeks. So offensively against the best, they are a long way short of where Collingwood, Brisbane and Geelong and the Dogs are offensively. But defensively, that's their point of difference. And it seems like behind the footy now, they've had a look at a few magnets over the first 3-4 months of the season. Hardwick now, you're going to be playing permanent back. Great move. Weddle playing more just down back. Great move. Sicily, where he comes back in, who knows? But that looks like it's really sure and really confident behind the footy. Now, over the next 3 to 4 weeks when they come up against these teams, that's all that we'll be looking for. Is this offensive power like they had last year in the back 2/3 of the season, where they're averaging 100 points against the best teams in the comp. Right now this season, offensively, they're a long way short. Just want to put that on the radar.
Funny because when I'm bored, I don't really have much of a life. So last night I actually did the ladder predictor when I was struggling to get to sleep, and I actually had Hawthorn missing the top 8. I think the last spot in the top 8 comes down to the Giants or to Hawthorn, and there was one game that came up, and that was Hawthorn-Port Adelaide. We know how Port Adelaide has had the wood over them. I think that could come down as a crucial match as Hawthorn try and push for the 8.
That'd be in Melbourne too, that one?
It would be, yeah.
So the Premiership market there has them at $10. That post-clearance number we just looked at, where they're number 1, that was a huge talking point throughout the last few years, certainly at Geelong when I was playing. It was something we prided ourselves on. Would you take being slightly less competent at clearance to be elite at post-clearance? Because on surface, I think I'd be pretty happy with that profile as opposed to being elite at clearance but average at post-clearance.
Yeah, 100%. So we've talked about a lot on this show. 65% of the game is what happens outside of stoppage. So winning that contest outside of stoppage allows you to have more time to create a better decision, be more damaging with ball in hand, as opposed to winning contest at the source where there's numbers around, there's a lot of congestion around. You haven't got that time to make that really, powerful, sort of decision offensively. So I think when you're looking at Hawthorn there and their profile, and you're looking at the Dogs' profile, I'm taking the Hawks' profile over the Dogs' profile because defensively and post-clearance wise, third and first, the Dogs are the complete opposite. Offensively, they're strong, but how often do we see defence, trump offence?
Especially in finals.
Especially in finals.
I like it. What about Brodie Grundy? The Swans, a little hiccup against the Bulldogs, but they have been surging a little bit lately. Brodie Grundy, a main reason for that.
And I think, watching that game on Friday night against the Dogs, I'm not sure what you guys think, but you're probably looking at the Swans now. They could be the ones that are going to cause carnage on the way home.
Felix has been saying all season.
Carnage to finish 10th or 11th, Felix. If you're happy with that, that's good.
He's beaming.
But I think they play 4 of the top 9 on the way home in their last 8 games, starting with Freo this week. So I think with what Sydney are doing at the moment, they are dangerous. And that's why it was a pretty good win for the Dogs on Friday night, I thought. And a lot of it is off the back of what Brodie Grundy is doing at the moment. His last 6 or 7 weeks, he's inside the top 15 players in the competition, where his first 2 months of the year, he was outside the top 150. And we haven't seen him have a 6-7 week patch like this going back to pre-COVID days, going back to his 18, 19 days where he was almost that extra midfielder for Collingwood. So that, the last 6-7 weeks, his contest and clearance work ranks inside the top 10 players in the competition. So you've got Grundy that's back to the player that he was pre-COVID. Heane was there, Goulden's back, Warner's back, Blakey's back, Papley's back. They're not going to play finals, but they are set to cause some carnage with Geelong, Freo, GWS and Brisbane, playing them on the way home.
Well, Freo's the first one. Look at that, $2.36 for Freo. So they've won 6 games in a row. They're the outsiders. I look at those odds and you almost get sucked in. Sydney are playing better football, but $2.36 is a big price for a club that has won 6 in a row. But I agree. It's almost a poison price that I'm not going to touch.
They'd be outsiders and thinking that's going to be my bet of the week.
Yeah, I was about to say, even as I am blindly and stupidly optimistic at times, but I would take that price on Freo every single day of the week.
Yeah, I was with you. I was hoping they were actually going to be underdogs.
Well, Horny, thank you. And not only have you given us some great data, you've also given us another quote that we can roll with. You are what you are. We'll see you soon. Welcome back into the back pocket. It's time for quick hands, and we're going to start off with the Eagles. They had a good first half against the Pies. Is there light at the end of the tunnel? Are we starting to see it for the Eagles?
Yeah, absolutely. I like what they're doing. They're starting to look really competitive for longer periods of times in games. They can't quite sustain it for 4 quarters against the better teams, but I think they're a live chance against the Giants over in WA at Optus Stadium. I'm not sure I'd be backing them just yet, but then you look a couple of weeks down the line, they've got Richmond over there as well. That's a definite potential win.
As the bottom 3 teams, I think West Coast and North are the 2 that are showing more currently. Throughout the season, I think Richmond had been in that middle part. They'd been very respectable with their losses, but their last 3 have been pretty disappointing and pretty comprehensive. So I think West Coast and North are showing more consistent football despite the loss for North on the weekend.
When Harley Reid and Oscar Allen are rolling around in different jerseys last year, they'll be able to reset and have another go at it. Carlton's season is over.
It is, and it's been very, very disappointing. So I expect Collingwood to win this comfortably. Talking about Carlton in the bottom 4 market, I don't think they get that bad. I wouldn't be able to back them at the bottom 4, but their season is done and dusted.
At $5 for the bottom 4. Now, while I don't think it's going to happen, I still think the wheels could fall off completely at some point. And while I wouldn't want to see it, their fans are very passionate and supportive. I think the $5 isn't too bad there.
Couple that up with Sydney to make the 8. That's a nice little multi.
All I know is I'm pouncing on the push out to $251. We're going to make the traders pay. You got a little 20% rule though, don't you?
So there is a betting strategy called the 20% rule. So you start with a kitty at the start of the year and you roll each of that and you try and get a 20% play each week. So you might start with $100. So you put all of that, $100, and you're trying to get $1.20. So that becomes $120 the next week, and then you roll it.
Checks out.
The best I've ever got was to round 8. So it's not a great theory, but if you can get a long way. But I look at this week, and there are 20% plays everywhere. So Collingwood are $1.20 against Carlton. I think they should win that. The Brisbane Lions at home to Port Adelaide, they're $1.21. and the Adelaide Crows $1.25 at home to Melbourne. They're your perfect 20% plays. Start with a kitty at the start of the year and try and get 20% each week.
I agree with 2 of the 3. I think Kate might back me up. Would you be willing to take $1.20 about Collingwood beating Carlton?
I would. See, I wouldn't take $1.20 bets, although apparently I've taken $1.10. I don't know how that one got through, but I think it will be closer. I don't think you can rely on Carlton, though. From what I saw last week, they gave nothing against Port Adelaide. They should fight this week. The game will be a good game. I don't think they beat Collingwood, but I think it's probably a little bit more respectable than people
We
are
could start a late kitty. We could put some money in.
I'm not against it.
Put it on the pies.
What about a quick one? I want a yes or no answer. Port Adelaide?
Yes.
I was going to ask someone else there. Port Adelaide have hope for September. Top 8 market in general.
I don't see anyone from 9th onwards being able to.
And this
play
is someone who
finals.
sat up last night doing ladder predictions.
I've done all the numbers. I've crunched them. I don't think they can make the top 8.
Fantastic work, everyone. We're set for a massive round of footy coming up. Remember, tune in on Thursday and across the weekend. We'll have all the bets there and keep this kitty rolling. Enjoy.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.